So everybody, this is our speaker today is Jenn Dusart. She's on her website, AFAA personal trainer, group fitness instructor, kickboxing, TRX certified, RIP certified, and CPR certified. Very, very good credentials. So you're certified in everything. And that TRX, that's the things you put over a doorway, right?
Yes, you can connect them to a ceiling, or they do have an attachment that goes over a door. They're a very functional piece of equipment.
Right. I say even Consumer Reports recommends it.
Yes.
So it's pretty. So, like I told you before, if you just skew everything towards Parkinson's in your talk, that'll be really helpful for us. Okay, you want
that is the plan.
Yeah, you want to introduce yourself a little bit to us?
Absolutely. And Warren, I don't know if you've done it yet, but you will have to give me the ability to share my screen. If you can, please.
I'll do that right now.
Okay. I have a snazzy little presentation.
Awesome.
All righty, so it should.
Yep.
All right. So as Warren said, my name is Jenn Dusart, and I am all of those things that he said, which is just a lot of titles to say that I love health and fitness. Day to day, I do own and operate a personal training studio in Mechanicsburg. What I truly love most about what I do is just inspiring and helping people to live their happiest, healthiest, most joy-filled lives. I want to thank Warren for remembering me and asking me to speak today. That was super exciting. And I'm honored to have a few minutes of your time to talk about some ways that you can incorporate exercise, nutrition, and self-care into your lives for some healthier living. So my goals for today with you are to show how exercise can improve the quality of life for a Parkinson's patient, review some nutrition information, and hopefully break it down to make it pretty simple that will help you choose foods that will nourish your body, as well as combating some of the common symptoms of Parkinson's. And then also discuss some self-care techniques for not only the patient, but for the caregiver that will hopefully improve your quality of life as well. So here's a list of, some of the most common symptoms, and obviously this is not an exhaustive list, but I did try to pick some of the ones that I think most definitely relate to the exercises that we're going to talk about today, and improving those, definitely helping to improve these symptoms. Research has shown that Parkinson's patients who exercise 2.5 hours a week also experience a slower decline in their quality of life. And that 2.5 hours a week does not have to be obviously all at once. You can spread it out over the 5 to 7 days of the week. The symptoms that we can help specifically with exercise are reducing your stiffness, improving your mobility, your posture, your balance, even your gait. Those of you who have, either have Parkinson's or have a loved one that has it, these are some of the things that you notice immediately needing some attention. The balance gets off, the posture, we start to slump, the head falling forward. These are things that we can absolutely manage and improve with exercise. When you get into strength training, we absolutely can improve your bone density to make yourself stronger. Cardiovascular exercise helps increase your oxygen delivery and maintaining those neurotransmitters that keep all the other body systems running healthfully. And then as we refer back to some of the psychological symptoms, exercise has been proven time and time again to reduce depression, help with stress, and with anxiety. Now, exercise is more than just putting time in at the gym. It really is about being active, walking, stretching, practicing your good posture. Aerobic and strength training, resistance training absolutely come into that. So we have a list here of some suggested activities, and we're going to talk about those. But aerobic activity specifically, why is that helpful? What do we need? Why do we need to do that? Aerobic activity is going to work your heart muscles and improve your lung function. And it's the driving force between getting that oxygen going around your body. So some of the things on here that would be aerobic in nature would be like walking, the swimming, stationary bike, rowing machine. Depending on the stage of Parkinson's you're dealing with, you could also possibly list a treadmill under supervision. You know, that is a mechanical piece of machinery and there is always the possibility of a fall. So that one I would use very sparingly, and certainly earlier on in the stages. Walking around outside, if possible, is always a better option. And I have dancing on here. So I have a special place in my heart for any kind of dancing to begin with. But one of the things that got me involved with Parkinson's was working in nursing homes, teaching chair fitness classes to the residents. And they would go to their specific, physical therapy for different things. And, they're working on range of motion and they're only able to go a very small amount with their arm when they're told to lift it up. They come into the class where it's music and it's relaxed and we're just reaching slowly with the music. They're able to get a bigger range of motion because we've kind of short-circuited the brain. We're not saying lift your arm, we're moving and grooving. So there's just such a beautiful connection that happens with the body when you have music involved. So it doesn't have to be organized dancing. It can be anything that's comfortable in your home. So I have that one on there because I'm definitely a big fan of that one. And then some of the other ones we have yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates. Those definitely help with our flexibility and they can help you feel more relaxed, which is another thing to help combat some of those psychological symptoms. So some things to think about though when you're choosing your exercises. One, pick something that you like. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're less likely to do it. And one of the other biggest components that research has proven with Parkinson's is it really isn't so much what you're doing, it's the consistency in how you're doing it. The continued sustained movement is what you need to work towards. You don't have to jump into the 2.5 hours a week if you're not there already. You start, and we talked about a little bit of this before we started the recording. Maybe if you're at ground zero, which is no activity, you pick 2 or 3 days of the week and you try to do something for 5 to 10 minutes. Once that 5 to 10 minutes becomes part of your daily routine and you feel comfortable doing it, then you add a few more minutes. And then over time, maybe you add 1 more day and you just very gradually step into this new existence of doing a little bit more and a little bit more. But you just need to get started with that. And certainly if you pick activities that you enjoy, that should help you do that. So when I start working with a client, one of the things that I ask myself is, what does this person need most? There's probably a lot of muscular imbalances or lifestyle changes that need addressed. And we talked about the physical things that we can address and the psychological things we can address through exercise for a Parkinson's patient. But obviously cognitive development would also need to be included in that if you ask me. And one of the easiest ways I've found is to use this example of taking a walk. You go outside and you take your normal walk, counting 20 steps. Then your next 20 steps, you take very long, exaggerated steps, just something different than your normal gait. Count those. Then you go back to your normal steps, then 20 steps of something else. And I just use the example of swinging your arms. And you repeat this sequence as you go throughout your walk. So you're training your body and your brain to do 2 things at once, which is just very helpful as you progress, with the disease. So we're going to go ahead and pause the presentation for a moment, and we're going to go through and actually see, I'm going to show you some exercises for posture, some things for flexibility, and some things for strengthening. And we're going to talk about each one as we go as to why, we want to do these things. So if anybody needs a nice big deep breath, or get up and stretch around a little bit before we get started here. I have to figure out how to unshare my screen. Oh, here we go. Stop share. There we go. Okay. So the first one we're going to talk about is the posture. And as Parkinson's takes over, the shoulders start to hunch, the chin starts to fall. Posture is something you need to practice. So the first two things I tell people are to roll those shoulders back and down as big and exaggerated as you can, really pushing those shoulder blades together as much as possible. The other thing that happens here is you pull your core in nice and tight. That helps open up your body cavity so that when you're nice and upright, all of your internal organs now have more room and space to do the things that they need to do. Unfortunately, one of the things as this takes over is everything gets really squished up in there. So by practicing that posture, anytime you sit down, if you've been sitting for a long time, just think about throughout the day, I need to roll those shoulders back and pull that stomach in nice and tight. You can use the back of your chair to your advantage here and think about pushing those shoulder blades into your chair behind you, keeping that stomach nice and tight as you sit up good and tall. The other piece that we really need to think about is that our chin starts to fall forward. Well, we need to strengthen the muscles up the back of the neck to help keep that supported. So after you roll those shoulders back and down and press your shoulder blades into your chair and pull your stomach nice and tight, I like to take my finger to feel my head pushing back as if the back of my head was going to touch the wall behind me. Sometimes when I tell people to push their head back, they actually tilt their chin because their muscles in their neck aren't used to doing this movement anymore of pulling back. So sometimes just that mind-body connection of actually pushing your chin back, hopefully then you feel that little pull and stretch up the back of the neck, which is what we want to keep it in alignment. So you can practice sitting there with your chin nice and snug back like that, making sure you breathe as you go through these movements. Oftentimes your brain takes over and you're thinking so much, you don't realize you're holding your breath. So make that conscious decision to make sure that you're breathing as you go through there. So as much as we talk about that good posture, we also need to talk about a way to strengthen our core muscles as we are sitting here. So one of the things that I recommend is doing what I call a roll up. So you're going to use your hands to walk down your body and lay your belly across your thighs. Hands will come right to the knees, and you're going to arch your back up as you're pressing each vertebrae into the chair, feeling that belly button tighten and pull in, rounding all the way up. You can push on your arms for support to bring your back up. And at the top, we roll those shoulders back. Now, hopefully our whole back is pressed in. We add that final piece of pulling back our chin to keep that nice straight line, breathing the whole time. So these are some ways that you can work on your posture and doing them throughout the day as often as you think about it. Technology can work to your advantage. Set a little reminder on your phone. If you like to watch TV at certain times during the day, during the commercials, remind yourself to go through those postures. The goal being that eventually the muscle memory will be enough that it's not such a struggle to do this, and then you can progress to some other things that we'll talk about here in a little bit. So after posture, we need to talk about flexibility. Your muscles will tighten and stay in the position that they're most used to being in. So for oftentimes with Parkinson's, we're talking about that rounded. So we need to improve the flexibility by stretching those muscles. So after we've done those posture exercises and we have that, we want to add some stretching. Stretching should never be painful. You need to be able to breathe all throughout your stretching. If you are forced to hold your breath, you're going too far into the movement. So for this one, we're going to sit up nice and tall in our chairs with that tummy tight. If you're able to scooch a little bit away so you have some space between your back and your chair, you're going to take a hand and bring it over to that other hip, keeping your body up nice and tall. Remember Barbie dolls, they used to turn right at their waistline. So that's our goal here, is we want to shift that whole upper body. The extra arm just sort of hangs off to the side of the chair. So you just nice and slowly, and for some of you, this may be as far as you can go, and that's okay. You just keeping that body nice and tall. Head is always in line with the spine as much as we can. A few deep breaths, getting a nice stretch in that spine. And it's also lengthening the muscles across the back, which when we slowly turn back to the center, now everything isn't pulled so tight, so our back doesn't feel like it needs to be all hunched. It can slowly on its own start to relax. So now we let the other arm hang, and we cross this one to the hip as we nice and slow turning to that side, holding that stretch for a few deep breaths. Good, and releasing that arm, coming back to the center, rechecking our position. Is our tummy still tight? Are our shoulders still back? Is my chin still up? These are things you can constantly keep going over throughout the day. Like we were saying about the physical therapy, and this might have been before some of you joined us and before the recording, I always encourage people who have to go through a physical therapy, do everything they tell you to do as many times as they tell you to do it. It is very tedious and it does get very tiresome, but your quality of life going forward will directly benefit based on this time that you put in now. So these posture exercises, these stretching exercises, they may feel very tedious to you now, but in a few years when you still have range of motion and ability, you will be very thankful that you have done them. So we did for the back and for the core, we're going to work on the sides. So if you have an arm of your chair, you're going to hold on to that. Otherwise, you can put your hand on your thigh for support. You're going to take an arm and it's going to go straight up as high as you can, and that's different for everyone. Keeping that back nice and tall, you're leaning over, leaving space between the arm and the head, taking a few deep breaths when you get to that position, and nice and slowly taking another deep breath to come up. And this one, you have some options. If you feel more comfortable repeating a stretch to one side several times and then switching to the other side, that is absolutely fine. So we're going to take that hand, holding the thigh nice and tight, just so we feel a little anchored. The other option is just to alternate your sides and go from one side to the other. Whatever feels more comfortable to you, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. And we reach it all the way back up. We'll do that one again because it feels so good. Just getting a nice big stretch. Abs are good and tight and you're breathing. And you typically want to hold your stretches about 5 to 10 seconds, a few deep breaths, pressing into that arm for support to bring yourself up if you need to. And we will do one more on this side. And lifting it all the way back up. Excellent job. And give yourself a moment to just take a nice big deep breath in and out. Now there are lots of other things we could do standing, but for the ease of time, we're going to go ahead and go on to the strengthening exercises. So posture, helping us stay upright, keeping that core engaged, letting everything work, stretching and flexibility. keeping our muscles loose and limber, giving us that ability to have that increased range of motion, strengthening. We need this to maintain and improve our muscle strength. It definitely helps with your balance and posture. If we can get your core nice and strong, that's going to help keep you upright. That leads to less likelihood of a fall, which again, that's the win, right? If we can keep you up and active and enjoying your life and keep you from falling, you'll be able to stay in the life that you have that much longer. Being able to get around more safely and obviously carrying out the activities that you enjoy. So with strength training, most people don't think about the things that they pick up on an everyday basis. For example, a gallon of milk or a gallon of water weighs about 8 pounds. So you could take that and you could very easily over, and I don't mean the movement's going to be easily, I just meant it's something that you have. So maybe at first you're only able to go a little bit with that gallon. If you have a half gallon, start with that. But anytime you can take something with some weight and try to push it up over your head and pull it back down, that's going to benefit overall arm strength and shoulder strength, which is something that we will need to help get up out of the chair and do different movements like that. So I'm going to turn sideways for this one. And we talked about it a little bit with the posture, but if you take your shoulders and you squeeze backwards, if there's any military people, this is probably very resemblance of chest up and proud, where you're almost over exaggerating to stick that chest out. We're strengthening the muscles around the shoulder blades, which is going to help us with our posture because it's pulling everything back. So you'll keep your head looking forward and pull back and squeeze those shoulder blades, holding. Arms are just down by your sides, and rest. Now, when you rest, fight the urge to let those shoulders fall to the front. So you're pulling back so nice and strong. Release slowly and make that mental connection if you can to stop those shoulders before they get to here. That's going to help with that overall strength of your posture. Excuse me, my papers are sticking. So another really great thing that we can do for, and I just realized you're not going to be able to see my legs. So working on leg strength is another very important component. So we're going to sit up nice and tall in our chair, and we're going to take one leg, pointing those toes up to the ceiling, and I'm really over exaggerating so you can see my leg, but you're going to lift, pressing those toes up as high as you can. So sitting up nice and tall, you're going to take that leg and straight, pressing those toes up as high as you can. You'll feel those quad muscles getting nice and tight, nice and slowly lifting, trying to keep it good and straight, and lowering it back down. And I would say try to start with maybe 3 to 5 on each side, nice and slowly. Thinking about all those other things that we've already mentioned, keeping that core nice and tight and those shoulders back.
Do you keep the legs straight when you put it up?
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
But I am a big advocate of starting where you are. So it will bend initially because of the quad muscles are not strong enough yet to help you keep it straight.
Right.
So in the beginning, straight with a smaller lift. When you start to feel the knee bend, that's when you stop.
Okay.
Okay. And so eventually you will find that you are able to lift a little bit higher and a little bit higher. The cool thing I love about this exercise specifically, if you learn to connect keeping your stomach tight with the movement of your leg, you're getting quad muscle work and core work. Anytime we can get additional core work into your life, it just benefits you tenfold. It aids the balance. It aids the posture. It just keeps everything functioning so much better. Is that a little bit easier when you keep the movement lower to the ground?
Yeah.
Does it make sense, Diana?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So we talked about lifting things over your head. a bottle of water, a can of soup, really focusing on range of motion. You can lift straight up to the side. You don't want to take your arm your hand any higher than your shoulder. This starts to cause a little bit of impingement in the top of the shoulder. So you definitely want to stop with your arms straight out to the side. And the most important thing with any kind of strength training is we want controlled movements as much as possible. When we do strength training, we're telling our brain, I want you to lift this and I want you to lower this, or I want you to push this and I want you to pull this. So we're trying to make that connection with our muscles of the movement that we want to happen. So one last strengthening exercise that I find to be very helpful, because it incorporates our balance, our posture, is, and you don't have to stand up if you don't have the room, but you're going to stand up. You're going to lift your knee as big as you can to take a step to the side. And then you lift your other knee nice and big to bring them together. So you just take this big exaggerated side step. So we're getting range of motion in the hip. We're getting balance and core work because we're shifting that weight from side to side. Now, to Diana's point from the last exercise, always start smaller, especially if you're by yourself. So maybe we do a smaller step over to the side, keeping our feet much closer to the ground. And then as we feel comfortable with that movement, we start to make it a little bit bigger. So it always goes back to starting where you are and then adding either longer movements or bigger movements as we go forward. So before we go, any other, do you have any questions about the posture movements, the flexibility, the stretching? I have just a little bit more about nutrition and self-care, but if you have any questions about these things, we can certainly cover them right now.
Something to say that the big steps that you're talking about. The big steps you're talking about. That's the big program for Parkinson's.
Oh, is it? You had mentioned that to me. I didn't find that in my research, but I'll definitely look into that.
So what that did is that simulates you getting in and out of a car.
Yes.
So they put a big object in front of you, and then you you sort of slide your leg over and the other leg, and then back. That's a large part of that big program.
Oh, that's wonderful. So the area that I have found it is when you're walking across the street and you come to a curb and you have to step up and shift your weight to go up onto that curb. Usually you can control that situation, but my mind tends to go to like, what's the extreme, right? So I'm hurrying, I have a bunch of stuff and I almost trip going up the curb. So I'm trying to, help teach that. It's a big fancy word called proprioception. It's the way your body moves in space and controls itself. So, doing those bigger exaggerated steps creates that muscle memory for when you need to kick into that. But that's awesome. There's already a program that does it.
Yeah.
I think, honey, isn't it true though that you also use it like if you freeze?
Yeah, it's the same. To get out of a freeze session, you use that muscle to pull your leg up.
Yes.
That's also important.
That's wonderful. Oh, I'm gonna definitely have to look into them. All right, so let me jump back on here to share my screen. Okay, so nutrition in a nutshell. So the diet community, not the health and fitness community. Diet and exercise community has made nutrition so difficult because they want to sell you products. So I am going to break it down to you in the simplest form you've probably ever heard, and I hope that it makes sense to you. Nutrition in a nutshell is this. We all have an internal database in our bodies. So when you eat something, say an apple, your database goes ding. that's an apple. I'm going to pull out these nutrients and I'm going to flush the rest because I don't need it. I just need these good things out of the apple. The rest I don't need. When you eat something, and I'm a big fan of Cheez-Its, so that's my example all the time. Say you eat a Cheez-It. Your database goes, I don't know what this is. It's a processed food item. Your body doesn't know what that is. But we were all cavemen at one point. I might need this later, so I'm going to make that body fat, and I'm just going to hold on to it. It is really that simple. So it boils down to this. If you can choose foods that come from the ground or come from animals, your body knows what to do with that. It will process it. Your internal organs will love you. Things will run smoothly. It helps with the constipation. If you are choosing foods that are constantly going ding, 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 with your internal database, things just work better. That is not to say that you cannot ever have a treat, that you cannot ever have a splurge. I have found, and there's a lot of studies out there in science, that an 80%, 20% ratio is a healthy ratio of 80% of the time sticking with those healthy whole grains, the lean proteins, the real whole food that comes from the ground, that comes from animals. If you are putting those into your body 80% of the time, when you go out for your splurge, you're going to have a speed bump, not a roadblock. Your body can process over a speed bump. A roadblock is like resetting everything, and you're essentially starting from scratch. What happens in America, we splurge 80% of the time, and then we stress 20% of the time because we're splurging. So we kind of need to change our, really it's a way of thinking about it. Food is meant as fuel for your body. We've learned to use it for a lot of other things that it's not meant for. But if you look at food, healthy, whole, real food, it can absolutely turn out to be your friend. It will help optimize your medications. It keeps your bones strong. Fighting with the constipation helps with weight loss. And just overall general health and fitness, you just feel better. So these are pretty standard, and there are lots of words to say basically everything that I've just said. Look for healthier options. Look for things that, basically shop the outside of the grocery store. If something comes in a bag or a box, it's definitely a moderation type product. They're usually not the best for you. I do want to draw your attention to the balance the food you eat with physical activity. Because of the tremors and involuntary movements that you suffer with as a Parkinson's patient, you need to actually increase your calorie intake to offset the expenditure that your body utilizes with these involuntary movements. So one of the things that I have found to be helpful for people to help incorporate some of these healthier foods is to put smoothies into your life. Now, I don't think that they are a meal replacement by any means, but they are a great tool to get some extra protein, to get some good fruits and vegetables. As swallowing becomes more difficult, it's a great way to get lots of minerals and nutrients into your system in a way that is easy for you to digest. But just keep that in mind as you're adding movement to your life. Most of you as Parkinson's patients are going to need to increase your calorie intake because you're burning more calories with your activity, and then you have the additional burning from the involuntary movements. So just a few more. These are very basic. You can find them on any healthy type website. Drink enough water. Be careful with your alcohol intake, especially with medications. There can be lots of disasters with that. Picking things that, low in fat, watch your cholesterol, just very common sense type tips and tricks for nutrition. And my favorite thing to talk about, and we'll end with this, is self-care. So I have been very blessed to have a fantastic family. But when my grandmother passed away a few years ago, she was actively dying for the last 5 years of her life from lots of different things. And watching my mother have to care for her is really what got me so passionate about encouraging people to think about their own selves during this time, whether you're the patient or the caregiver. It can be really hard to get the sleep that we need, but it is essential for restoration in your body to try to get enough sleep. It helps with your digestion. It helps with metabolism. We all generally just feel better when we have a good night's sleep. And like I said, I know it can be hard to find that time, but if you are always worn out and ragged, you're not going to be any good to anyone else. And then if you're the patient, you're not going to feel like doing the things that are going to ultimately help you feel better. One of the ways that we can find time to sleep is to ask for and accept help. People generally do want to help, and they feel very helpless. One of the things I noticed with my mom is people would say like, oh, what can I do for you? Can I get you anything? And she was very big at, no, I'm good. People felt very dismissed, and then they stopped offering help. And then she kind of was like, why isn't anyone helping me? Because you didn't accept the offers when it was given to you. So, as the caregiver, maybe you ask somebody to come sit with the Parkinson's patient so you can go take a walk on your own, or go get coffee. Find something to do that helps. Great opportunity to take a nap if you can do that as well. Some of the other great things I've heard suggested over the years, obviously, yes, I could use dinner, right? Could you bring dinner over for us one night this week, or pick up our dry cleaning, go get our dog, like something that's just going to make your life a little bit easier. People like to feel needed, and if you don't allow them to help you, then they never have that opportunity. So 2 other little things here. Be patient with yourself. As we talked about implementing these new strategies, one thing at a time, nice and slowly. Big overall sweeping changes, very rarely do they ever work. It's overwhelming, it's defeating, and people give up. It is so much better and healthier to work on one little thing at a time, adding that 5 minutes of exercise a few times a day, adding a fruit to your breakfast, one thing. Get that down, make that a habit, do it for like a week, then maybe add a second thing. But everything is taking longer in this COVID era that we're living in. So having patience with yourself, doctor's appointments take longer, getting back to you takes longer. Learn to just take a second and take a deep breath. Be patient with yourself, be patient with the situation. You will see progress if you just keep showing up and putting the work in. And obviously the last one, the reaching out and staying connected. You're doing a great job with that by being a part of Warren's group. One thing that I learned recently in my life through some things that happened is it's very hard for people to be vulnerable. But in the situation of life that you are all in, this support group is your chance to be vulnerable. And it is hard to be the person to be that, to step out and say like, I am really struggling with this or with that. Everybody here is in the same group, in the same stage in one way or another, and nobody is going to judge. So use the people in your circle for your support so that you feel like you're not in this alone, because it really does help. Life is hard enough, but I do believe if you start incorporating 1 or 2 of these little things, you will see a huge improvement over time. So I thank you so very much for your time today. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will let Warren do his thing.
Question. I have a question.
Yes.
On the nutrition.
Yes.
Where does white rice or potatoes come in?
Okay, so I'm a big believer that nothing is off the table.
Okay.
Food that is white, bland colors, they are once in a while kind of foods.
Okay.
You really want to focus on eating the rainbow, lots of color. The more color you have on your plate, the better. Now, I am not a fan of sweet potatoes. I like potatoes. I grew up with baked potatoes with dinner a couple nights a week. So I have learned that if I'm going to have potatoes, I typically have them for lunch because they're basically empty starch calories, but
Okay.
they do give you a little shot of good carbohydrates, which your body uses for fuel. So I would eat potatoes, like regular old white potatoes, in the middle of the day and then try to do something active after that. And
Okay.
that's kind of the key with any of those foods that fall into the more moderation category. It's not so much that you can't ever have them, it's having them at a time of day where you can work them off shortly thereafter.
Okay. That's what you would call.
So that's where
comfort food,
potatoes
right?
fall in.
Comfort food, like the mashed potatoes.
Oh yeah.
So the sweet
Yes,
potato,
those
is that
things that make
considered
us
the
feel
same
good
as
and warm on
comfort?
the inside, that's not food's job. We
Right.
have turned that into food's job, but that food is not inherently good or bad. And one of the things that I stress to people all the time, they come into their workout session and, oh, I was so bad, I cheated all weekend. You were not bad. You did not cheat. You had some treats. You had some splurges. But changing your thinking about it is the first step to not getting into that pattern. Because if you constantly tell your brain, I cheat, I'm bad, your brain is always looking for ways for you to cheat and be bad. But if you say, I eat healthy every day, a few times a day, your brain starts looking for ways for you to eat healthy every day. So self-talk, as much as for years of my life, I thought it was all kind of hippy dippy, right? Like, you know, whatever,
Right.
positive stuff. It works. I am a living, breathing testament that it works.
Right.
Jenn, thank you. That was very good.
Oh, you're very welcome, Miss Darlene. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to chime in.
Now your place, is that like where a group of people go, or are you mainly a one-on-one trainer?
My studio is designed to be a one-on-one training studio. What I
Okay.
specialize in is teaching people how to exercise safely and effectively with age-appropriate exercises. So very difficult to do in a group setting, not impossible, but what I love about what I do is the relationship I'm able to develop with people, and especially a lot of, you know, middle-aged to older women, they're not very comfortable in a gym setting. It's very intimidating.
Gotcha.
So my niche in this industry really is that
Is a
one-on-one.
one-on-one.
I do often do like what I call a partner train, husband and wife, sisters, mom and daughter, something like that, where I will do 2 people at one time. But I've done group fitness for years. I've done the boot camps of the bigger groups of people, but I just have learned to follow my passion, and God has put it on my heart that one-on-one is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Gotcha. So they go to your studio, I take it.
Yes. Now, interestingly enough, with COVID, I do trainings this way as well. Still one-on-one though, especially virtually, because I need to be watching even more closely. There is a little bit that gets lost in translation when you're on virtually compared to live. Depth perception is one of those things, and that's big with what I do. So through FaceTime, Facebook Messenger, Skype, Zoom, I am able to train people that way as well.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you a believer in that theory that Diet Coke is the worst thing you can drink because your body feels like it's sugar, but there's no sugar in it?
So I am a believer that if you're going to drink a soda, you're better off to drink regular soda.
Right.
Diet soda is so many chemicals. There's nothing natural in it. You're basically shooting toxins into your body. At least in real soda, there's typically a natural flavoring. There's typically real sugar. Not that those things are great for your body, but
Right.
at least your body knows how to process it because it's a real thing. It's not this concocted synthetic.
But what about the idea that your body thinks it's sugar and it adjusts your insulin level to sugar, and you're not really drinking any sugar?
So that I'm not aware of. It makes perfect sense though.
Yeah.
whenever you're putting a synthetic in, it is masking something else. So it
Mhm.
makes perfect sense that it would mask those receptors, and then your body would think that you're getting that when you're not.
Right. So then you end up with low blood sugar.
Yes. Regular water. I'm a big advocate. I know people get bored with it, but the benefits to your body are huge. Again, working through everything, keeping the body systems humming. They need hydration, they need oxygen, they need that movement. So the more natural things you can put into your body, the better everything works. And, you know, the overall goal being the better you feel.
Right. Are you asking about the sugar, Warren? Because of some people are saying don't eat so much sugar, so you're saying substitute sugar, so it's not
No,
a
they're
good
saying that
idea.
that's the worst thing for you is
So
fake
doing
sugar.
the substitute thing then.
Yeah, because your body gets doubly confused.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. I was just wondering because we
Yeah.
don't do substitute sugar anything. I don't think.
Just
And I
the
don't
waters.
like diet soda.
What about the water? The natural sugar substitutes.
So anything that's chemically processed is gonna make that database go, eh. Even water, anytime it goes through any kind of processing. Now, that's not to say again that you can't ever have those things. What I recommend to people is, you know, say that you are a sparkling water, a naturals, or an artificial substitute kind of person. Alternate them, have regular old water and then the drink that you like, regular old water, you know, and hopefully eventually then it becomes a 2 regular waters, one of what you like, 2 regular waters, building on that to hopefully, you know, incorporate those better habits of real water and then crowding out some of those less healthier choices. And my whole thing with that is you have to just strive to make the best choice in the moment. It might not always be the best choice in the world, but sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have all of the tools at your utensil, or all of the utensils that you're necessary that you need. So making the best choice. I'm thirsty, I need something. Having your mineral or your flavored water is better than not having anything. But in the future, maybe let's try to pick, you know, the regular water over something else.
Anybody have any other questions for Jen?
I just wanted the answer is if I want mashed potatoes, is it better to have the other ones than the mashed potatoes? Because my mother-in-law is the one who hooked me up on the sweet potatoes. I never had sweet potatoes until she did it, and I love them. But which one's healthier, sweet potatoes or mashed potatoes? Because I
Which
love
one has more
mashed
color?
potatoes. Which one?
Which one has more color?
Oh, the other one. Okay. The color. I have to go with the color
And
one.
the reason
Okay. I like
the
those.
reason I didn't give
Okay,
you an
right.
answer is because, and I did that on purpose, Diana. This is what you need to ask yourself when you go to the grocery store, right?
Color. Think of color.
Do I get the green grapes or the red grapes? Which one has more color, right? Do I get this or do I get that?
That's
Which
a
one
good
has
thing.
more
I
color?
never thought of it that way.
Right? And so that's where I say diet and exercise world, they want to sell you a bunch of products, so they make it really hard.
Right.
Which one has more color? That's the one
why
I should
brown
get.
rice is better than white rice.
Exactly.
If I mix mine up Mexican style and make it orange. Okay. That makes
So, but my goal is to help people change their thinking with that, right?
and it is. I never thought of it that
Yeah,
way.
if
the
I-
color stuff.
Sat here and said, eat this, not that, and then you get to a place where those two things aren't the options. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Right? People have no idea because the diet and industry doesn't want you to know.
Right.
It's very simple. Pick something that has a lot of color that came from an animal or the ground.
All right. So Warren's getting more sweet potatoes.
Yeah. Sorry, Warren. He's gonna be like, delete this.
He's not that fond of them, but I guess he's gonna have to.
I like them.
Yeah, you're saying that because your mother's there.
Right. Anyway, it was lovely, but I have to leave.
She's always got to go. See ya. She's
group.
she's on the go.
I got to go to my 2 to 4 group. Then my
All righty.
All right.
It was nice
busy.
meeting you.
Well,
Take care.
we'll see you
Thank you
tonight.
very much. It was wonderful.
Bye.
Thank
Right.
you.
We'll see you tonight.
Bye.
Tonight's Thursday. We have family meetings tonight.
Oh, that's
Okay.
wonderful.
So Jen, let's go over your address. You want people to, is that your office too on Trindle Road?
Yes, it's 5023 East Trindle Road. And if you go to the website, which is Workout with Jenn, and there are 2 N's in Jenn.com, you can find all of my contact information listed on there, and it has the address and everything. So it makes it one place to find all the information.
Great.
Good. So you do have experience with Parkinson's patients, but not an over amount of them. But
Correct.
but you are familiar with treating them.
Yes. Yes.
That's good.
And I'm very blessed to have an amazing circle of doctors as clients. So when I run into something and I need some assistance, I call them and I say, okay, who do I talk to about this to tell me exactly what I need to know to be the best at what I do?
Right.
And they tell me where to go and we figure it out.
Awesome.
And it takes me, for example, if I wanted to get into that TRX thing, would I pay you to set me up with a program and start me off? Then I wouldn't have to keep going.
Yes. One of the things I love about what I do is there is no set scheduling. So I have some clients that they come to me for maybe 5 to 10 sessions. I teach them what they want to know and then they take it and go home. I have other people that they want that like monthly check-in, right? They do their own thing, but they want to maybe learn something new this month. So I see them once a month. So what we would start with would be a consultation. We would talk one-on-one, specifically, what do you want to do, your challenges, your obstacles. We would meet together however many times, that you are comfortable with and that this works for you. And I could teach you exactly what you need to do with a TRX. I believe they're about $150 for the home unit. So then you would buy a TRX and put it up at your house, and then you could do the exercises at home. Yes.
Right. And that's as good as strength training?
So TRX gives you strength, flexibility, and core training all at the same time. Mm-hmm. It really is a full body exercise.
Because I know Parkinson's patients always miss out on the strength training.
Yes.
Everything's aerobics or cognitive or stretching.
Yes, but the strength training is huge for bone density, for just improved muscular strength. I mean, I can't say enough things about it. You need all of it for overall health and fitness. You need the stretching, you need the cardio, you need the strength, you need the rest, right? All of that goes into it. So the thing I just want people to realize is don't get overwhelmed with trying to start all of it at the same time. Pick one thing and get rolling with that, and then add more as you go.
Right. And the payment, is there a rough idea what it would cost monthly to?
So it's actually based on the sessions. I do offer a new client package. You would get 10 30-minute sessions for $300. That is the one thing that I do ask be paid at one time. And then after your 10 sessions, and it doesn't matter how long it takes to use them, then it goes to $40 per session. So just per half an hour, you would pay the $40 after the initial 10. Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty standard, I assume.
Everybody runs their business differently. There are some trainers that have monthly membership things and those kinds of things, but this is what has just always worked for me. It allows me that flexibility to give people a discount if they know that they want to come for several sessions.
Right.
And then people pay. I have some people that pay every time they come. I have some that pay at the end of the month. That I don't get really bogged down on. It's cash, check, electronically via PayPal or Venmo.
Right. Because I know physical therapists, they're $100 to $200 a session.
Yes. And now I am not a physical therapist. So
right.
if you have had a situation that you need that, I can't be in replace of that. Right. But certainly one of the areas I have found that I am most helpful is people coming out of physical therapy. They don't really know what to do now. They've had somebody telling them what to do all along, and now they're at the point where they need to add the strength, but they're not really sure what to do. So I actually have a few people that I refer people to and from that will send me people coming out of physical therapy for that reason.
Right. Good. Anybody have any questions?
But I could see why you would need somebody, because just when we were doing the chair stuff, I was like, wow, had I known all of this when I was at work, I would have taken the time to do that
Yeah.
while I worked, you know, sitting at a desk for all those hours.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Once every 45 minutes to an hour, give yourself a 5-minute stretch break. Just get everything moving again, gets that circulation going.
Right. Honey, you should do that because you do sit at that computer a lot.
Yeah.
You really should.
Did you thank Dave for these DVDs?
Yes, Dave. Thank you so much. I know it was hard. He sent me some DVDs and it was hard connecting. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All righty. Great talk, though. I
Yeah.
learned a lot.
Oh,
people-
good. Well, thank you. I'm so happy to have been here with you today.
And do you think the TRX is the best way of going for Parkinson's patients with don't have a gym set up?
So for an at-home thing, yes, I think it would be the most complete piece that you could get that would give you the most benefits.
Right.
I don't even know what that is, honey. Do you?
Yeah, you
So
put-
it looks like two big long black straps and it has handles at the end.
Is that
They
what
have
Daniel
some
got?
yellow
Yeah.
on them as
Oh,
well.
I think his son got that.
He
His
did.
son got that because he's in Seattle and they live in an apartment. And because they can't go to the gym, that's what he got. I didn't know that's what it was.
yeah, you use your own body weight to give resistance, right?
Yes, it's scalable to any fitness level, which is the most beautiful thing. So it works on a principle with a vector point. So you're holding two handles that are connected to the same point at the top. The closer your feet are to that vector point, the more difficult the exercise is because you have more of your body weight involved.
Right.
So as you pull your feet back from that vector point, now it's a less intense exercise. So it's very scalable.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I never knew.
Like
that.
an inclined plane kind of.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So Darlene, are you going to get right on that?
Darling. Yeah, come on, darling.
You don't seem
I-
enthused.
Probably going to redo the big therapy. I haven't done that for quite a while.
Yeah, that was very helpful. I just finished that last week.
And I've not been good about, keeping up the exercises for a while, but that falls off pretty quick.
Yeah, my flexibility really improved in my hips from the moving side to side and things like that.
Yeah.
It was
So
really good.
Darlene, to your point, something to think about, honey,
Hmm.
motivation is really hard, right? Like you said, it kind of fell off. So one of the things that I have found is the actually doing it is what helps breed that motivation. So as much as it is difficult to take that first step and do it, tell yourself, I'm going to do 5 minutes today, just 5 minutes. I don't have to do a lot. I'm just going to do 5 minutes. If that seems too much, I'm going to do something during this commercial, right? Just a
Yeah.
very small
Those
little,
are only 15 minutes, so it's not that bad anyway. But and then
Yeah.
beginning, grandsons were doing it with me sometimes, and it was kind of fun. But
so you need to incorporate your grandsons then.
I think
Type them, however you talk to them, and you tell them, look, I need to do this 3 times a week, and I need you to call me and make sure I do it and do it with me, right? So then everybody's engaged. Then you get the socialization with your family, which is fantastic. Such a big thing, especially during COVID, right? We're all missing our loved ones. So
Yeah.
anytime we get to see them and just do something fun, great way to incorporate dancing, right? Hey, I want to dance today. Put your favorite song on, guys, and let me hear it so that I can move around with you, right? It'll be fantastic. They'll laugh because you're dancing to their songs, right? It's great. It's just such a wonderful way to get that joy back in this time of life.
and the boys and I can do it on Alexa.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're all missing out with this social distancing. I don't know if it's Netflix or Prime. Do you remember, honey? I think it's Netflix.
Yeah,
There's
they have
a
the
thing
social-
about social distancing, and what they're showing is they're showing little clips of people social distancing, like a funeral,
Oh,
a
goodness.
breakup, a wife that's sick in the room, and the father has to take care of the baby. They're showing different versions. An alcoholic. So they're showing different versions of all of us that are going through this in
Oh,
different
wow.
ways, one way or another. which is a really good.
I have a sister-in-law that lives alone. And the other day we had a dinner at my other sister-in-law's house for my birthday. And before I left, my sister-in-law that lives alone came over and said, "Can I give you a hug? It's been so long since I've had a hug."
Yeah.
So I think every time I see her now, I'll give her a hug.
Yeah, this guy was living with a plant. He got drunk and he got off the wagon and was having dinner with his plant and everything. He was losing it.
Oh. The funniest situation that I've heard so far, one of my clients is a college student at Temple. Her 3 roommates are all opera majors.
Oh,
So she has been living with nonstop opera singing
Oh
for 6
my.
months.
oh my goodness. I'm telling you.
So as on the days where I feel like life is tough for me,
Imagine
I'm thankful I like opera, not for every day for 6 months.
Yeah.
That's worse
a
than
lot.
a trombone or something.
Right. Like of all the things it has to be
Yeah.
opera. And she calls her poor mom, right, via FaceTime and stuff. And the mom's like, "Honey, I can't hear you with all this singing."
Oh my gosh. Wow. This is a good meeting though.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm sorry, I am going to have to go. I have clients in a few
Okay.
minutes.
Okay.
But thank you so much. And Warren, if there's any information you need from me, please feel free to reach out.
Sure. I'll do that. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful.
I think I'm going to go
Bye,
too,
Jessica.
honey.
Bye.
Your day. Thank you so much.
Bye.
I'm
That was
leaving.
great.
Bye,
Thank
darling.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.